the project that we are going to deal. So every time you are developing a web application or any software application for that fact, so there is, if you want to build an application, any software, first thing you want to understand is what is the requirement. Okay, as we discussed yesterday, right? So we had discussed a partial requirement yesterday, which is right. So there will be a library is a place where people can get books, right? So there are books and there are users, and the one who is actually giving away the books or collecting the books back, arranging the shelf or whatever, so, right? So uh, the um, the library manager, right? And we have to track which user has taken which book and which employee has given that book and what is the due date, what is the return date, right? So these sort of things, right? So if I have to discuss about the requirement in detail, first thing in the library management should have an inventory, right? Or the stock inventory of books, which means we should be able to, right, create book entries and count. I have bought say computer science book and I have 10 of those books. So meaning how many people can I give that book to? I can give that book to 10 people, right? Just by looking at the application, you should tell, okay, I have 10 books and you can just say like, user, you can give away those books to the users and you should track, okay, how many books have been given out, how many are yet to be returned and so on. Okay, so we should be able to create books and also the count. We should be able to edit the book entry. We should be able to edit the book entry and we should be able to delete the book entries. Okay, so this is all about books, right? Where I can create books and so on. Another thing that we want to keep track is the employees, right? I want to create employee, add employee, right? Edit, delete, and each employee will have like, the first name, last name, um, a phone number, email, right? And these employees will be able to log in. These employees will be able to log in. Okay. Right. Email, password, and so on. Okay. All right. The next thing is like, we should be able to edit any of these records and delete that record as well. And third is the users, or let us say now for now, let us consider as students. Okay, students. So obviously a student records also should be there. Add student, right? Edit and delete. Along with this, what else do we have as part of the student? Yes, you will have the first name, last name, phone number, email, right? There is no user, student will not be able to log into the application, so there won't be any password. And along with that, you will also have something called a register number or something like that. Okay, and we should be able to edit, delete, and so on. And active status, whether student can be active or inactive. Okay. And now that we have individual tables for books. Okay, what do we have in the books? Right? Name, right? Category, right? Um, Author, right? What else will come into the library book thing? Author, you will have right, author, title. Obviously, there is title instead of name. Let me write it as title. Right, title. What is the category that this book belongs to? Right, and stuff like that. Is there anything else that we have in the books? Right, so the title, category, and there will be segregations, right? What do you call that? Right, title, author. Okay, so let's also keep like, total copies, right, that we have in the inventory. All right, so let's go with these as a book entries, book table columns, and employee columns, and student columns. Now the fourth table, that fourth requirement is that, right, employee should be able to give books to students. Employee will give books to students, which means, right, I need another table which basically tracks, right, what is the book ID, right, who is the student who has taken, right, what is the due date that he has to return, and what is the actual date that he had returned, and who is the employee who has lended this out, right? So this information we will store in the. Okay. Now, are we clear with these things so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Clear, sir.
Okay. Now, first additional requirements are get me books or get books student X has taken. Whoever the text can be any student register or student name that I will give. You have to give me how many books he has taken and along with that book title and so on. Okay. And if this is one requirement, list books. You have to list all the books, right? And list students, right? API to list students, give books to students, right? Again, handle return. Student will return the books. You have to write different APIs to handle each of it. To handle each of it. Are we clear? Obviously, there is login, log out. Employee should be able to log in. Employee should be able to log out. Who can create books and students? Only employee can create. After logging in, only employee can manage the data. Before logging in, nothing, no API should work. All this data should be only be accessed. Every data is protected, right? All the APIs should be protected except for the login and logout. Are we clear?
Clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Lovely. Now let us go and try to create a, let me call. So okay, another thing is that whenever we are creating a project. So first thing is like, we have to understand the requirement. So based on the requirement, you will try to come up with a schema design, which is your database design on then how many tables, each table, what are the columns that should contain, what is the data type of each of this. So that you will decide. First, you collect the requirement. Based on the requirement, that is what we did, right? So we collected the requirement, and alongside we also decided what data should be there in the what table should be created and what are the columns that should be added in each table, right? Okay. Usual step one, collect the requirement. Step two, understand the requirement. Be understood. Step three, you have to decide on what should be your table schema structure, which we did, right? And step four is basically you have to create your project setup. You have to make your project setup, right? So that is what we will be doing now. So what I'll do is I'll create a project setup. Okay. First library. So I am going to create a folder called library management. Right. So this is my project name. This is my project name. Under this, right, I'm going to create the templates folder, which contains all HTML. Under this, I will create static folder, which can contain CSS, JavaScript, or any of the images, which we have seen earlier. Yes. Okay. After this, we will create our Python specific folders. So here I'm going to write one thing called application. This is the okay. Let me just yeah. Okay, so here I'm going to create app.py. App.py. So I will have another folder called models, where I will create a class separately for book, for user, right? Book user, right? Those things I will create here. Separate class for just to have the models, like, a class for book, a class for this thing, user. And after that, I have my app.py, I have my models, and probably any of the utility functions. I will create one folder called util. Under that, I'll create one package called util. Under that, we will write to have utility.py. So any of the utility functions can be made here. Okay. And in the from the app.py, and I'll create one more folder called APIs, right? So where I write all APIs. And I will import this APIs into app.py and use it. I don't want to overload my app.py, so I'm trying to keep the APIs separated. Okay, are we clear? So this is how I'm going to create our first project structure. First project